So I'm going to be responding to Fiona's take on dystopia and how she analyzes it in her thesis statement, which is dystopian societies are the results of human fearing fear of not knowing the meaning of life. And I was really interested to see which sources she used because I myself considered this thesis, but didn't really know which ones I would use to tie into that. Her outside source I've never heard of, The Giver, before she mentioned it, and I do think she gave like an accurate, thorough description of it because otherwise I probably wouldn't have known what she was talking about. Um, but I think it is a really interesting source because in all of the other ones that we were seeing, with Inception and Wall-E, it was like this end goal they were trying to chase. Whereas in The Giver, which she mentioned, they were just people trying to keep development from happening. So with those inhibitors that people were taking and making sure that they couldn't remember or feel anything from how the life was in the past. I think that in Inception and in Wall-E, there was more of a choice in that, in thinking that that way of life was better. And I think her idea of, social media and just media in general, how it is a platform for discussions like this. So with Wall-E, it's a movie, or with The Giver, she explained it was a book. It's ways to talk about the unknown and the possible without really scaring people, because we all think, oh, it's fake, that could never happen, but it was a good read. So as Samantha replied to this discussion as well, saying, Hunger Games, of course, we would never want any of that to happen, but we think it's interesting to see on screen. But um, when you start to think about it, all those things are all really possible. The world could take a turn for the worst, as far as we know, and by putting them into movies, they're somehow less serious. But with and like Samantha mentioned in terms of Wall-E, those are situations that could actually happen. We could actually be the own downfall of our humanity, or in The Giver, we could desensitize humans, or in Inception, we are, pursuing that dreamlike state. So it does call into question what reality is. And I think she touched on that a lot throughout her presentation, that um, our fears are morphing our perception of reality and where we're headed. And I think that this paper will be exceptionally interesting because of her passion for it. Um, and I believe that the idea of multiple dystopian societies is not, or none of them are very far fetched. Humanity could go any which way at this point. We aren't making the best choices, as Samantha mentioned, especially with Wall-E. That could be a very possible end for us. I mean, I'm not sure if we'd be down straight to a T, but very close. We might be at a point where we can't live in the world anymore. There might be a point where um, making humans, kind of less powerful in their own choices and their own lifestyle may be the better way to go in terms of a government or a society's sense or point of view. And I think that dystopian societies and utopias are based on you know um, are actual people's fears and concerns about how life is going, or the absolute worst that could happen. Because if it's imaginable, if you can think of it, it definitely can happen. I mean, it would take a certain set of actions and causes and effects, but at the same time, I think it's interesting to see what people are most fearful of in humanity. Is it the technology? Is it our humans themselves? Is it you know reality in the world around us? Is what can be attributed to these fears, and how do we cope with them? And I think a lot of the time, like Fiona mentioned, it's creating these dystopias in our texts and our movies. So I think she did a great job. You did a great job, Fiona, and I hope that you have the best of luck on your paper.